Hello, I'm Oonagh Williams. Today I thought I'd take you on a tour of countries far away. As some of you know, I have a culinary arts degree from training in London and Switzerland, and I've travelled to many countries in Europe and tasted their cuisines, and I teach international cooking and do international cooking for my clients, so I thought the rest of you would like some different recipes. They're always easy with me, they're always real ingredients, and I don't think you'll have any problems, and your family, friends, everyone will absolutely love them. So we're going to get started today. First of all, with a dessert that's a Lithuanian recipe from my Lithuanian classes called Apricot Squares. Now in Europe, apricots are a very popular fruit. They're not used so much in America, but they're very popular in Europe with almonds and they're easily available. I've also made this with peaches and mandarin oranges, all from a can, which makes life simpler, even though it's a bit disgraceful. But in the summer, when you get fresh peaches, nectarines, it would be absolutely phenomenal as well. And as I say, it's very easy, so we're going to start doing it. What I have is your plain old-fashioned 9-inch pie plate that most of us have. I like to use glass an awful lot because it doesn't rust, it doesn't warp, it doesn't have a lining that's going to flake off. You can see what you're doing with it, and if you drop it on the floor and it breaks, it's pretty cheap to replace, all of which fits in with most of us with our budget and not going crazy trying to replace equipment. So this is the ordinary 9-inch one. The 10-inch one is a bit wider and a bit deeper, and it would make a thinner crust. So this is the 9-inch plate. To go into it, we've got a basic shortbread style crust that I did in the food processor. If you don't have the food processor, you're just rubbing it in with your fingers, same as you would for making pie crust or scones. Not difficult at all. So to go into here, I had a cup of flour, half a cup of sugar, and a teaspoon of baking powder mixed together with half a stick of butter to make a nice crumbly mixture, and you can see it's just like fine sand. Okay, so we made the flour, baking powder and butter and sugar into the soft crumbs, and then I've added to it 1 tablespoon of sour cream and half a teaspoon of almond extract. Now I'm going to separate my egg. Now when I add eggs to anything, I know it's paranoia, but I always like to break them on a saucer first, because anytime it's guaranteed I break it straight into something, that's the time that the egg yolk gets into the white when I don't want it in the white, when I get shell in and I can't get the stupid thing out. So it's just a lot easier to do it straight onto a saucer like that. And then having done that, this is a plain old egg cup. So all I do is I put the egg cup over the egg yolk so it's held in place, press down, and just let the egg white dribble its own way off. Obviously you don't want to press down onto the yolk and break it, but there you are. Get as much of the white off as possible. You can also end up just freezing the whites and keeping them to make meringues in the future, so that's out the way. I wouldn't recommend using egg beaters. You want the extra richness of the egg yolk in this. So then all I'm going to do, and this you could have done in the food processor as well, is just mix it in. I'm doing it with a fork. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's to start binding it together a bit more. I'm sure most of you have done desserts like this with a shortbready type bottom and then a streusel top, and that's what we're going for. So it doesn't matter how perfect it is. If it was done in the food processor, it would be done in seconds, but I was trying to do it here so you could see it. And as I say, it does not need to be perfect. Once it goes in the oven and the butter melts and the egg binds it together, it does the work for you. So we're there. And you can see there's big lumps, little lumps, but it's all basically bound together that bit differently. And get that off the fork so we don't waste any of it. And then I'm going to keep back half a cup of this to make the streusel topping. And then I'm going to put the rest into here, like that. And shake it to even it, and then press it with my fingers. Now if you use butter in the processor straight from the fridge, this is going to be nice and firm to press out. If you let the butter go soft and do it with your fingers, you're going to be fighting the butter and it's going to end up sticking to your fingers and pulling up. So then just put saran wrap on top and use that to press it out so you don't lose half of it to your fingers. Then to go on top, what I've bought, You can't easily find apricots in the good 16 ounce, 28 ounce can. You can only find it in the little 8 ounce cans, and it gets to be quite expensive. As I say, it's not a normal fruit used over here. But in the produce section, Del Monte do the jars of apricot halves. The only thing you have to do is check the date on them. It has a date, whereas cans don't tend to have a sell by date, not as easily. And you know, this is through till December of 2005, but I looked at some recently, they were ready to expire within the month. You don't want that. So these are apricot halves, and you can see these apricots look a lot bigger than most of the apricots we get round here in the summer. So they're ordinary canned, they're halved. I've drained them to get rid of as much juice as possible, otherwise it's going to make the dough soggy. And I'm just going to put them out. Obviously you want the nicer looking ones, you don't want the ones that have got a bit mangled, because the apricots will show through the crust. So I'm just going to put these on. As you can see, there's no rocket science, you're just putting them round. You could be a bit more sparse and not give as much, but if you bought the complete container, you might as well use the complete container. And it's about $3, I think, for the jar. It could be a bit less. As I say, you can use cheap peaches and it's even cheaper. And you can see these ones, they look a little bit mangled, so we'll ignore them. And we'll squish that one in there, and perhaps, yeah, we'll just get that one in the center. Let me just wash my fingers since they're sticky. Okay, so having kept back half a cup of the streusel, I have about 1/4 cup of almonds and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and I just threw them together into the food processor. So if you think of it, we put the flour, the butter, the baking powder and the sugar together in the food processor and made it into breadcrumbs. Then we added the almond extract, the egg yolk and the sour cream to make it lumpy, crumbly, whatever. Pulled back half a cup, pressed the rest on the base of the pan and put the apricots on top, and then put that half cup back in the food processor and added the almonds and the sugar. So the food processor did the work of chopping the almonds for you, just to make life a bit simpler, and it makes less dishes to clean up, and I'm all for as little wash up as possible. And then basically just sprinkle it on top. You don't want a big thick filling. It is going to bake down around the apricots, so you still see the shape of them when they come out the oven. And that's done. It's going to go into the oven at 350 for 30 to 40 minutes. The topping is going to nicely golden brown, and the other reason I really like to use the glass dish is you can look underneath and see that it's nicely golden brown. You know, there's absolutely nothing worse than a pastry dough or anything like that that's still soggy and raw and fatty tasting and just quite disgusting. So this way you can pick it up from underneath, look and say, oh, that's going a nice golden brown colour. So you know once it's out of the oven and cooled, it's going to go a nice crisp cookie texture, which is exactly what you want. So this is going in the oven, as I say, 30 to 40 minutes at 350. I tend to put things like this on a metal tray. It just makes it easier to bring in and out of the oven rather than shoving your thumbs down into the dessert at the end of it. So it's going in the oven. Hi, welcome back. So I've taken the apricot tart out of the oven. As you can see, it's cooked up. It's a deeper golden brown around the outside, nice and light golden brown on top. You can just see the apricot showing. And if I try and tilt it to the camera without dropping the cream, you can see it's this lovely light golden brown underneath, so you know it's definitely cooked through. And then for the top of it, this is half a cup of heavier whipping cream, tablespoon of powdered sugar, and the ultimate extravagance, a tablespoon of apricot brandy as well, whipped, piped around, and then some toasted almonds on top for crunch, texture, contrast of colour and everything. And then what I like to do for a dinner party is I like to do cut it into a slice and put it on the plate and then pipe the cream on the plate. It looks a lot more decorative that way, and when you come to cut a tart with cream around the outside, it tends to end up looking far messier. So it's cut this way. So go ahead and enjoy it. You'll be amazed how easy it is to make. It's a good 6 to 8 generous portions. So that's about all most people want to deal with for a dinner party, unless they have me in to cook it, of course. Okay, so go ahead, enjoy. I'll see you later. Bye.